Hey everyone, Ryan Young, KAATARO Jiu-Jitsu. Hope you're doing well. So today I'm going to do a video on gi versus no gi. And actually it's an appropriate time because here at KAATARO Jiu-Jitsu it's June 1, 2021, and we are walking into our no gi season, right? Why do we have a no gi season? Well, stay tuned. Let me go over that in a second. Now, first of all, what is KAATARO Jiu-Jitsu? KAATARO Jiu-Jitsu is the Jiu-Jitsu Academy that was founded by Master Dave Kama out in Southern California. He's one of the original Dirty Dozen. Started off as a private student with Jorge and Gracie and Hoist Gracie back in 1986, and then became Rickson's student exclusively from 1989 when Rickson moved to the US. And he's one of the first 12 in the world to receive a Gracie Jiu-Jitsu black belt. Who is not Brazilian, and he got it from Grandmaster Rickson Gracie himself. He has 3 campuses, one in Irvine, California, one in Flower Mound, Texas, and one in Austin, Texas. So come visit us when you're in the area. We do allow drop-ins, and we love drop-ins. We love people to come and visit us, and it's always great getting to know new friends. Master Dave does have an online website. It's called KAATAROJujitsuOnline.com. And it is there that you can see his teaching of the Rickson Gracie Jiu-Jitsu curriculum, so you can learn Rickson Gracie's invisible Jiu-Jitsu for yourself. And you can learn it in the comfort of your own home, your own dojo, or your own home studio, whatever you guys do, your garage studio. Hopefully by now, we will have it set up on our mobile apps, so that'll be good stuff. So now let's get back to the subject at hand. No gi versus gi. I've done a video on this before, and there are benefits and, I guess, disadvantages to training in gi or no gi. KAATARO Jiu-Jitsu, what we do is we do what Grandmaster Rickson and what they did at Gracie Torrance all the time was. It was summer months, no gi, and non-summer months, gi. So that means from June 1st through August 31st, we're training without the gi, and from September 1st through May 31st, we're training with the gi on. So that means 3 months no gi, 9 months with the gi on. Now first, why would we do more training with the gi versus without the gi? Because no gi is very popular these days. I mean, there are some schools that only do no gi, and there are some people that message us and say, hey, I only do no gi, you know, could we train over here? I'm like, yeah, you can for 3 months, and then after that you're gonna have to put the gi on. And we've lost a lot of prospects because of that, because some people just want to train no gi, which is fine, you know, with that, because I guess it's kind of fun doing no gi. Whereas with us, it was always Vale Tudo, right? And Vale Tudo versus MMA. Vale Tudo is more the old style Gracie Jiu-Jitsu street fight. If you look at some of the old videos, I don't know if you can actually get them, because the Gracie family did actively videotape their fights. And I'm thinking of one fight that had high-end Gracie in it. I think he was a teenager, and he was fighting a lucha libre guy, and they were fighting at Renzo's house. You might have heard or seen some videos of Renzo talking about how when he was maybe a late teen, his parents moved to another house and kind of left him to his own devices with his 2 younger brothers, Half and Hyan. So I was at Helson's house decades ago and watching a video that he had received, and it was a fight that happened at the house. And it wasn't in a mat area like we would have, you know, like in the garage, you'd fight in the garage kind of thing. It happened all over the house. It was in the living room, it was in the hallway, it was in the backyard, on the back porch. It just happened everywhere. They just kept fighting and fighting. And I want to say a fight went on for maybe 30 minutes to an hour. There were no rules. I mean, there maybe were some rules. I think one of the rules was no biting. But guess what? Bites happened, and they kept fighting. Right? None of this, stop, you know, you bit, that's illegal. Right? They go, hey, why are you biting, right? And they'd keep fighting. In fact, there was one where, in Portuguese, I guess Hyan was mounted on this guy, and the guy underneath him bit Hyan in the chest. And you see Hyan look up to Renzo and tells him, hey, this guy bit me. Renzo tells him, bite his ear off. So he bit his ear off. And they kept fighting. It's kind of brutal and violent. You know, that's the traditional Vale Tudo type stuff that we're talking about. So it always made sense to be able to train and fight with the gi or with no gi. That's how we were taught. When I was in Hawaii, we did Fridays were no gi, Monday, Wednesday were with the gi on. Helson didn't do the seasons, he just did every Friday. Whereas when I moved to California, it was for the seasons. So still, Helson was 2/3 gi, 1/3 no gi. Once it was a summertime, I was probably like in 93 or so, and Hickson was saying, you know, we're gonna go no gi, but just letting you guys know that we go 9 months and 3 months because 60 to 70% of jiu-jitsu is with the gi on, whereas a smaller percentage of it is no gi. That was his rationale, and it makes sense. Because when you think about it, a lot of the techniques happen with the gi on, whereas, you know, I'm talking to my students last night, we're kind of getting mentally prepared for no gi season, right? There's no gi chokes, there's no bow and arrow chokes, there's no traditional Ezekiel. You gotta do a little different version of it. But a lot of the chokes are guillotines, rear naked chokes, and neck cranks. That's really what you're looking at as far as chokes. So let's say from guard, you're gonna do guillotines, right? Pull his head down, feed it to the other, set up a guillotine. Arm in guillotine, arm out guillotine, but guillotine. If you can find a way to take his back, then you can set up a rear naked choke, right? In addition to neck cranks here and there and stuff. So why do we do the way we do with the seasons? Here's the reason. Because a lot of people will do what they're most comfortable with and will not do what they're not comfortable with. So if I were to do a Fridays is no gi day, then you'll have some people only show up on Fridays and be asking for more Fridays, and you have other people refusing to show up on Fridays. Even though Friday may be a day that they want to train, they're like, it's no gi day on Friday, so I'm not going to train, right? Because I want to train with the gi on. Or it'll be somebody who likes to only train no gi saying, why do you only have 1 day a week for no gi? So we always thought it was easier, and it made sense to why Hickson and Horian did seasons. So that's why we do it. But here's another thing. Since the priority to be successful in jiu-jitsu is to have a great defense, not a great offense. The priority is to have a great defense. What is harder to defend? It's harder to defend yourself when you're wearing a gi versus when you're not wearing a gi. So what happens is when you're wearing a gi, you're having to not only defend positions, you're having to defend grips. Grips on your collar, grips on your sleeve, because it's easier for the offensive person to establish and maintain control because they can use the gi. Another thing is friction, right? I don't know if you remember back in UFC 1, Royce came into the octagon wearing a gi for his first like 3 times. Why was that? And if you asked him, he said 2 reasons. Number 1 is it'll tempt them to grab my gi. If they grab my gi, I know that hand is not going to punch me. The other is that, you know, these guys might put Vaseline on their body to make themselves slippery. The gi will create some friction, so it'll be easier for me to hold on to them. Perfect, right? That makes perfect sense to me. So in fact, to kind of get myself used to training without the gi and getting a student used to training without the gi, I had a private a couple days ago, and he wanted to just do no gi. So he came in wearing shorts and a rash guard, and I, of course, was wearing a gi. I kept the gi on so he could have handles, so he could choke me out, do whatever he wants. But he wasn't wearing a gi, which means that I couldn't have the same handles on him. So in a way, it was kind of handicapping myself, which is good because that's kind of like what I need to do. On the defensive side, you think about it. When you're slippery, you're sweaty, and there's no handles, you can get out of stuff more easily no gi than you can with the gi, which is why a lot of people like to train no gi, because they're thinking, I don't want to have to deal with these stupid gis, you know, guy being able to grab this and grab that, and you know, why is that a problem? It's a problem because their defense is no good, right? They want to just be able to explode out. It's hard to explode out of stuff if you're wearing a gi. You have to be a little more deliberate. You have to make sure your weight is placed correctly, and you have to sometimes make sure you have to break a grip so that you can then move. Whereas with no gi, You don't have those issues. So now how does playing no-gi benefit you, right? Benefit your technique? Well, being that your opponent is more slippery and can explode out of stuff, it makes it so you are forced to have a tighter offense, right? You need to have more connection. You need to have more hip space deletion, right? You can't let your opponent create space by moving away. You have to stay on him because you cannot depend on friction anymore. You have to just be there and be connected so he cannot move because he's now slippery. So playing with the gi develops your defense while making your offense a little lazy. However, playing no gi will develop your offense, but it can make your defense lazy. And since we're defense centric, we focus on defense, we make it so that our students train in a defensive mindset for a longer period of time than they train in an offensive mindset. Because at the end of the day, when you talk about the Kama Jiu-Jitsu ladder, the priority is in the defensive side. Because, Gracie, Hicks and Gracie, they both said, if you can't submit me, you can't beat me, you can't beat me as in beat me, punch me in the face, beat me up, then you'll never defeat me. On the other hand, if you have a great offense but no defense, it really doesn't matter, right? If all you do is you practice offense, attack, 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 which how most schools teach today, they don't teach any defense. So if you get held down, mounted, cross-side, side mount, whatever, seatbelt by somebody whose defense is good and you have no defense, you only have an offense, and all you can do is attack, you can't attack from a position that doesn't allow you to attack. So what good was all that offensive training that you did? You should have been working on your defense, right? Because what's the worst that can happen? You can get out of everything, but no submissions, right? You can't do any submissions on somebody. So students will ask me about that. They go, I can get out of his mount, I can get out of his cross side, I can pass his guard, I get the cross, I get the knee belly, get the mount, but I can't submit the guy. What do I do? Well, at the early stages, I just tell them, punch him in the face, right? You can always hit them. I'm not telling them really to punch them in the face to do that. I'm just saying that now that their defense is getting dialed in, if they were put in a bad situation and they were to get on top, from there, hitting is easy. If you can maintain control, hitting is easy. You got elbows there, you got knees there, you can punch, you can headbutt, you can do all that kind of stuff if you can get on top without having a good offense, so to speak. And if you get taken down, you got put on your back, you know how to get out, you know the movements to get out of the mount, and you can then climb up on your opponent and get on top and start hitting them, right? You don't need to know how to do an Americana or a Kimura or a straight arm bar or a rear naked choke. Right? Oh, but what if you have his back? Well, think about it, right? If you know how to know what a seatbelt is and you can hold the seatbelt, then maybe you can't choke him because you don't know how to choke to save your life. Just kick him in the, oh well. Anyway, so I just thought this would be a great video to kind of answer some questions about the whole gi versus no gi debate. And some of you say to yourself, and you kid yourself saying, I don't need to do gi because nobody walks around in the gi or in a suit. Well, maybe if you survive, along the equator, right? But if you don't survive along the equator, then at some point in time, you are wearing some sort of jacket, right? Right now I'm wearing a hoodie here on June 1st in Texas, of all places, because we're having a rainy season, so it's relatively cool. So people do wear clothing, right? People don't walk around the street naked. They don't walk around the street, or if they're clothed, they're not wearing rash guards and spats. So that whole line about doing no gi because of that, it doesn't fly. So for those of you that are white belts, which most of you are, and you're looking to improve yourself, do both the gi and the no gi. Don't choose one over the other, do both. And if you have the ability to, try to train with the gi 2/3 to 3/4 of the time, and train no gi only 1/4 of the time, max 1/3 of the time, right? Make your training defensive centric, not offensive centric, because offense can be beaten relatively easy with good defense. But having a good offense with no defense, you'll lose every single time, trust me. Anyway, if you made it this far, I appreciate you continuing to stay on. And if you like this video, please go ahead and click the like button. And if you really liked it, go ahead and share it with somebody so they can see it and they can benefit from this too. That's all I got for you. Take care. Happy training. Bye now.